No water today. Daniel, she's just falling apart, I guess. I get it. I'll try to stay on my feet as I'm becoming so dehydrated.
What do you see in Cincinnati? Watching them.
3-4 team, pretty multiple. They do a good job. I really like their nose tackle. Does a good job. He's really disruptive. And they have a corner that I think is really, really pretty good player. When you have a 3-4 structure, there's a lot of multiplicity that can come. So a lot of different pressure packages, from the field and from the boundary and internally, and they're mixed up the coverages. So there's some multiplicity there that you have to be prepared for. Fortunately, close to half our teams, there's some sort of odd front that we'll have to play against. So it's good, and we're not too unfamiliar with it. But I see, a group in their first year, right, as a staff, and every week you can see improvement and maybe how they're trying to do things and what they're trying to get done. So, road games this league are always tough. So, again, I said it before, I'll say it every week. It's big time football. We'll have our hands full. We have to do a good job.
When you talk about their up front guys, what do you see from those?
Well, the ability to be very disruptive. I think his ability to penetrate and slant and angle and still read and two gap at times. It starts there, right? So it's kind of like, we got Nowitzki in there and the job that he'll do, right? But it'll be a big matchup for how our guards and centers are able to handle him.
When you guys put in the Wildcat stuff earlier this season, did you ever expect it would have that big of an impact on a specific game plan as it did last week?
Well, I've said before in here, I think, we have the ability to grow, maximize any package in our offense based off of maybe what you need to help win a game. And so you never go in and say, hey, you know what, we're going to run this and do this a little bit because by the time we get to week 11, we'll be able to do it 8 times, But it's part of what we do, and then when guys understand that part of our multiplicity, it allows us for when we feel like we need to do it against an opponent that you can do more of it or less of something, as it goes.
With the homage, we saw him play left guard, snap at left tackle, and then right tackle as well. Just versatility for him. Can you speak to his growth? Obviously his first year being able to be a starter with us, and this is the time of year when your line depth is tested, I think, in all phases, for teams across the country. And so when guys are getting banged up a little bit, you have, we want to find ways that we're making sure we're putting our best linemen on the field all the time. No one's ever just going to be, and we say this with all positions, no one's ever going to just be the left tackle and that's all they could be. We want to be able to have guys diversify themselves so that they could go in and play if necessary at whatever spot. So that was a situation we were in. But to him specifically, his understanding and growth of what we're doing, right? Okay, speak credit to Coach Fuchs in the group, as a unit to kind of know with what we're doing and how and the directions we're going and the combinations that we're calling and the protections, everything to make sure that we're all on the same page. And for him to understand that speaks to his ability to want to do it, first of all, because players have to want to be used in a multiple of different ways, and they all want to play at the next level. They all dream to play professional football, and that's what professional teams are looking for, people who can be diverse in their ability on the field.
Do you have an idea where Cooney would project at the next level?
Not right now, you know what I mean? I think he was going to be a heck of a football player. Every team comes in and asks about him, but no, he's somewhere. You know what I mean? He's going to have a chance, right? Because he could play all the positions.
How often are you having conversations about him with NFL teams?
Well, I think almost daily NFL teams come in to evaluate guys. I don't talk to them all the time about that. A lot of our front office staff will work with them and interact with them and act as a liaison. They're part of evaluation. But most of the teams will visit with Coach Fuchs. A handful will reach out to myself or Coach Leipold and ask some questions. And, they know that we're in season right now, so they're pretty respectful of our time. And, if this season is over, I would anticipate a lot more conversations.
Cole obviously was hard on himself after that game about the 2 picks and would love those throws back. How much of that is I guess, necessary, to make a throw like that, to feel like, well, hey, I got to learn from that, especially for a young kid. I mean, you don't want it ever, I'm sure, but
yeah.
Is that part of it?
I think, perhaps I've talked in here before. You can say whatever you want. All humans need to go through and mess up.
Your mom told you not to touch the stove, you freaking touched it anyway. And you learned, right? And there's so many things that applies to getting experience in games, making a mistake, recognizing what I could or shouldn't have done. That's all part of the growth. Is it necessary? I don't know. Some people would maybe say no. You know, it's what it is. You know what I mean? That's big time in college football. You know what I mean? When you're playing an equal opponent and you're playing a good defense, they're going to challenge your techniques. They're going to challenge your decision making, right? Especially at that position. And I'm really proud of how he played. I'm sure, and I know he beats himself up about those two plays, but I mean, you know, I got to be better for him too, right? So, and put him in better situations, and you know, I know other guys on the offense feel the same way. So, that's all part of our growth as an offense. But yeah, I mean, these reps for him are invaluable for his football career, and he's done a good job, and he keeps getting better. And the best thing about him and a lot of our players they're very coachable, and they're going to make those mistakes, and they're going to grow from them.
Is there a touch the stove moment for him that stands out for Cole?
No. And that, you know, to use that analogy, I mean, you know, just recognize the windows get a little bit tighter, you know, right? You know, and what you can and can't slip them into and stuff like that. But, you know, you recognize those things at practice too, you know. So he just keeps getting reps and keeps getting better. I can't pinpoint a specific one and say, hey, there you go, you know.
Andy, we've asked you in the past, when Jalen and Jason play, there's not a lot you change. What about with Jason and Cole? Is there a lot you change, or is it the same?
It's very similar, you know. And you're watching it from the sidelines, you know, without knowing the plan. And I would say there's still a lot of diversity, multiplicity, and you know, you can see we're trusting him to take the keys and not be afraid to throw it down the field. We're still going to highlight our best football players and what we do well and our way to attack a defense. So, no, I you know, we're going to continue to play to win the football game, right? And that's how we're going to call it, and that's how we're going to game plan, and that's what we want to be able to do, regardless who's ever at quarterback or taking any of the snaps. Because I think that's what's necessary.
He said more so than he's ever been in his life. What's that like Sunday, Monday when you see him? Is it
No,
how do you help him through that?
my favorite thing about him is how tough he is, right? That's awesome, right? That's one of the things he's gonna learn, right? Like you know, it's a little bit different than getting hit in high school when you come and run, you know, when you just take off scrambling and stuff, and you know, they're a little bit bigger and stronger and faster, and you know, but we preach being physical and tough in this program, and we want that to encompass all positions, you know, and so he's going out there and taking on tackles, and you know, at some point we can recognize that we've got enough and we can protect ourselves more, and that's true for most skill players. But I mean, it's inspiring to watch people play tough, right? I think in any sport. And so when he's doing that, I think it's pretty sweet to watch. You know, I'm not going to tell him. I'm going to help him and grow for his future and well-being, but I'm not going to tell a kid to not be tough. You know, I mean, we practice those things. Remember, a couple of years ago, we talked about having to try to fall forward more. You remember us talking about that? And we had to develop drills to do that. How about that? Now we're telling a kid, hey, you know, I mean, let's just go down, right? Okay. Well, you know, so we got to be careful what we coach and what we preach, and then what we get. So we want him to protect himself. He recognizes, you know, I think the game as it's changing is different. We're never going to not encourage a dude to want to fall forward and, you know, take it on for the team a little bit, you know. And he was a little bit sore, I'm sure.
Yeah. We didn't talk about it much Saturday, but on his pick on the fourth down in the end zone, how much of the kicking game struggles factored into the decision to go there?
Well, I mean, you factor in all those variables of what is going to happen, you know, and you have that choice to you're down that low to it's a one possession game regardless, and you never know when that's your last possession. And so, a credit to coach, and you know, that's the right call to make. You know what I mean? To try to go win the game as opposed to, you know, what's the difference? Lose by 1, lose by 3 or 4, whatever. You know, like we need to execute better, right? To win it, it's the thing to do. But you know, coach is factoring all those variables in when you're making a decision to go for it or not, right? So stay aggressive. That's what we're going to try to do.
Curious, when you think back to the start of fall camp to now being the last game week, where do you feel like, as an offense, you guys have grown the most over the course of this season?
I tell you, our ability, and there's a lot of things. I think a lot of individuals have grown well and improved and diversified themselves. But we're pretty diverse. Like we can, to what, the question about, direct snaps to the running back, and there's not a lot of stress and anxiety about having one of those packages grow on a given week. Because our kids just understand it. We walk through a lot and we install. And it's kind of fun because we're at the point where kids are like, yeah, okay, I got it. We're maybe beginning of fall where there's some stress about, hey, you got to do this and line up here in motion. Here's your split. And here's the call. And there's none of that. They've really got a good understanding of what all the concepts are, to a point where they could go teach it really well. And it's helping our younger players because you can see our older guys get such a good hold of it that they can communicate to newer players about what it is. So I would say that's something that, and that's relatively a recent reflection in my mind. Actually, I was just thinking about this morning. I'm like, man, these guys really got it. We're not out here coaching all the time. It's like, just show it, line up, do it, we're good.
With the experience you have then, I guess how encouraging is that long term for those freshmen, sophomores, that when they get the chance to step forward, that they've already had a couple years working with guys older than them, learning this stuff and getting further in it?
It's a huge asset for us to have older players modeling the behavior that we want. And we've talked a lot about those older players in here. And so when we have that, right, it's one thing for a coach to talk about, here's what it's supposed to look like, here's how we practice, here's our attitude, here's how we behave in the weight room or whatever it is. It's one thing a coach to talk about that, but then it's a whole other thing to observe a Mike Nowitzki do it, or a Mason Fairchild, or a Jason Dean, right? To see those guys go and behave the way that our culture wants them to, right? We talk about culture being action in our program all the time. It's not what we say, it's not what we do, it's not words on the wall when you walk in. It's literally how we act and behave. And you're either doing it or you're not. And so when a younger person who maybe is new can observe that, it is a lesson way more powerful than anything I could ever say, or any video I could ever show, or a book I could have them read. For them to see it's a huge deal, then it's their responsibility to make sure that they're holding themselves and their peers accountable to those things moving forward.
How was Jason doing this week?
Awesome. Taking a lot of reps. He's doing good.
Anything else, Coach?
Okay, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy it. Big news in the Christmas